Hello everyone, good evening. My name's Cate Debates and I've been a volunteer and worked with YWCA Mankato in a variety of roles, but tonight I'm so thrilled to be here with you virtually to honor some really amazing women who are about to join 150 other women as women of distinction. I hope you walk away from this as empowered as I am, learning their stories and their histories and ready to take action in our own backyards to eliminate racism and empower women. So first, a word from our sponsors.
Hello everyone and welcome to the 2020 Women of Distinction event. My name is Sarah Richards and I am the President and CEO of Jones Metal Incorporated here in Mankato, Minnesota. And I was asked to talk a little bit about why we sponsor this event and why it's important to us. Our family includes a long line of entrepreneurial women and progressive men who have cheered them on. I'm lucky to be part of this special group. Our good fortune has motivated us to cultivate opportunities for others to help recognize their achievements. So we support women of distinction because these women deserve the recognition and we feel it's important to hear their stories. Some of their stories are well known in our community while others less so, but all of them are engaging and I am always inspired and feel stronger and ready to take on the next challenge after I hear these stories. Join me in welcoming our 2020 new Women of Distinction honorees and listen carefully to their stories.
Hi, my name is Sue Cate. I'm the president of ProGrowth Bank. We have offices in Nicollet, Gaylord, and Mankato. And I was asked to talk a little bit about why I choose to sponsor Women of Distinction and also what being a Woman of Distinction means to me. Truthfully, I choose to sponsor Women of Distinction because I love the YWCA. I love the mission of eliminating racism and empowering women. To me, the YWCA is an organization that lifts people up, and lifting people up is very, very important to me. I think we should do it every opportunity we can, and I love partnering with an organization that keeps that in the forefront of everything that they do. Particularly, though, Women of Distinction and what it means to me. When I look at the group of women that are women of distinction and get these recognitions, they're amazing. They're powerful, they're strong, but as important as anything else, they reach back and they lead and bring others along with them. So I'm entranced every year to hear the stories. I can't wait to hear and meet today's honorees. I appreciate all that they do. I congratulate them, but I look forward to hearing how they reach back and bring others with them as they're on their amazing journeys. So thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you so much, Jones Metal and ProGrowth Bank, for your support of this event. We really couldn't do it without sponsors like you. And also, all of our viewers at home, make sure you're checking out the mobile silent auction. It will close at 9 p.m. We have excellent experiences, purses, all donated from local businesses and women. So we really hope you can check that out and shop and find something that you like so we can keep having wonderful Women of Distinction events like tonight's. And if at any point tonight you miss any of the honorees' speeches or any of our programming, you can catch this recorded video online at ywcamankato.org after tonight's program. And now I'd like to introduce Natasha Lopez Rodriguez, the Executive Director of YWCA Mankato.
Good evening. I am Natasha Lopez Rodriguez, Executive Director for the YWCA Mankato. Welcome to the 48th Annual 2020 Women of Distinction event. I'm especially glad you have joined us for this first ever virtual event during these challenging times. I wish we could all be together in person, but I am so excited for you to hear our honorees' stories, which were recorded this past June 2020. YWCA has been in the community since 1926, thanks to Mrs. R.C. Wilson for her visionary and pioneering views. Now, as for our annual Women of Distinction event, it began in 1973, and we have had the honor to recognize for 48 years over 150 women in our community. So why Women of Distinction matters? It is because we honor all women. They need to know that they matter, and they need to know that all women can help change this world.
Thank you so much, Natasha. And now it's time to recognize our 2020 Women of Distinction honorees. Our first award of the evening is the Business of the Year Award. This award was actually created this year to recognize an outstanding business or organization who directly impacts the mission of YWCA Mankato. Tonight's recipient is Ide Bailey. And accepting on behalf of Eide Bailly is Heather Tilgis.
Hello, everyone. This is Heather Tilgis with Eide Bailly. I am a tax partner with the firm and currently serve as the tax department head overseeing the Mankato tax practice. And I've been with the firm for approximately 19 years. Eide Bailly has been around since 1917. And our journey began in 1917 with pencil and paper. But by embracing change and focusing on our innovative ideas, we've grown with the industry to better serve our clients. So gone are the days of handwritten 13-column ledgers. Now technology helps us connect, much like we're doing today, with our clients while remaining true to client service philosophy we've been practicing for over 100 years. We believe this philosophy and our approach to business is why we've been around for a century, and we recognize that we couldn't accomplish this alone and are very thankful for our staff, our partners, our clients, and our communities that have really been an integral part of this incredible journey. The mission of Eide Bailly is to serve passionately, intelligently, to add value to our stakeholders, which include our clients, our staff, and our communities, and to grow our firm. Eide Bailly's mission is really the catalyst of our culture statement. And our culture statement is caring for external and internal clients with a passion to go the extra mile. It's respecting our peers and their individual contributions. It's conducting ourselves with the highest level of integrity at all times. We trust and support one another. We're accountable for the overall success of the firm, not just individually or office successes. We stretch ourselves to be innovative and creative while we managing the related risks. We recognize the importance of maintaining a balance between work and home life. We promote positive working relationships, and most of all, we enjoy our jobs and we have fun. Our mission and culture statement are very interwoven, and collectively, they really represent a living, breathing document that guides how each of us do business, how the firm does business, how we interact with each other, how we interact within our community, and how we interact with our clients on a daily basis. So Eide Bailly has a corporate responsibility promise that one of the components actually focuses on our communities. And I'm really proud to share that in the last year, our firm as a whole spent over 13,500 hours working with boards, communities, and professional associations throughout the United States, and specifically within Mankato. We have a significant presence in the nonprofit community, especially within the YWCA. The YWCA's mission of empowering women and eliminating racism is interwoven within our mission statement and our culture statement. And a couple of examples that I can point to, over 10 years ago, Eide Bailly launched an initiative called First Focus, and that initiative was really designed to improve the advancement of women, enable the retention and advancement of future female leaders, and ensure career opportunities for women that parallel those of men within our firm. We really wanted to create an environment in which women were as likely to succeed as men. We continue to have that initiative within our firm today. So that's an ongoing focus, and statistically, we have significantly improved the retention and the advancement of women within our firm, including women sitting on our firm's board of directors. We've got an election coming up, and I think that the candidates for board of election, there's actually a majority of women in that candidate pool, which is really exciting to see. More recently, the firm established a diversity and inclusion council, which the mission of this council is to create a diverse and inclusive environment for both staff and clients that really is reflective of communities in which we serve. We strongly believe that diversity in people and diversity in perspectives provides better innovations, better solutions, and more opportunities for our clients, our staff, and our communities. 2020 has been a year of hard things, and now more than ever, we need to have intense conversations around racism and social justice. The foundation of our firm culture, of Eide Bailly's culture, is caring for people, and that care must now include a very clear stance. We are anti-racist. We are also anti-violence. Our firm is committed to learning, listening, and discussing how we can create change within ourselves, and our communities. This award carries significant meaning for our office and firm, especially today. It serves as a badge of honor, and it's recognition of the efforts of our firm, our people really, in supporting the important work and mission of the YWCA. It also serves as a reminder, our work and efforts are needed now more than ever. Eide Bailly is committed to be better and try harder to understand the perspectives of others and be inclusive to a variety of thoughts, ideas, and viewpoints. Thank you so much to the YWCA for all the work and efforts that you're doing today and in the past. And we truly are grateful to be part of this community and support this organization. And thank you for this award.
Thank you so much, Heather and Eide Bailly. As an Elizabeth Carney Women's Leadership graduate, I have firsthand experienced your generosity, and thank you just so much for continuing to support the work of YWCA Mankato. Our next award is the Young Woman of Distinction Award. The Young Woman of Distinction Award was established in 2005 to recognize women under the age of 40 who make a difference in our community. Tonight, we're recognizing Dr. Deb Bobendrier.
I'm Deb Bobendrier. I'm a jack of all trades right now. I'm a faculty member at Rasmussen College. I teach anatomy and physiology courses, and I'm a chiropractor. I'm not currently practicing right now, but I still am involved in our business at Discover Chiropractic in Mankato, and I'm staying home with 2 little people right now, all at the same time. I guess I would say it started with a strong family when I was growing up. My parents owned a business and my mom was a nurse, and I am the youngest of 7 kids. And I just have always felt loved. And so I felt like I could do anything and was never told that I couldn't. So I pursued what I wanted to do, and that turned out to be chiropractic. I went to school out in California and met my husband, and we practiced in Seattle and then decided to move to Mankato and start our business in 2008, which is when we got married as well. And I started teaching in 2009, which was pretty random. I never thought that I would be teaching, but I got a call asking if I would be interested, and I found another passion. I had no idea. I thought for sure I didn't have the patience to teach, but I found that it's really fun. I love talking about the body, physiology, and all that good stuff, and teaching how to take care of yourself and what things are important to consider when doing self-care. So that's kind of how that rolled in. I would say that it's a process to find your passion sometimes. When we first got to town, we made a conscious choice to get involved in this community. We were building a business and we wanted to support the community. We expect to support the community that we would love to get support from. So we made a conscious choice without really any direction. So we just said kind of yes to everything. We would show up at events and volunteer at events and not necessarily be terribly passionate about the cause necessarily. I mean, we were and maybe we weren't. But I don't think that that's a bad way to go. Just say yes. I've talked to a lot of people who say, I don't know how to get involved. And you just show up. You just go. And if you're an introvert like me, you find somebody who's an extrovert who will find the people in charge and ask how you can help. It's incredibly easy to get involved. And then from there, you can see where you fit and where you are finding that passion and where you find that love and that joy, because you should feel joy in what you're doing. You should feel like you're contributing. And if you're not, then it's time to move on. I've always been passionate about supporting women. Like I said, I grew up in a very supportive environment and I never felt like I couldn't do anything. And it's mind-blowing to me to hear about women who have been told, like outright told, that they can't do something. I just don't understand that. And so that part of the mission has always been with me at my core. And I don't know what it's like to grow up not as a white person. And I'm raising 2 kids that aren't white. And I'm the mom. So I need to learn as much as I can and figure that out as much as I can to support them. And I think the YWCA is a good place to do that and to start that learning process. I remember listening to Lisa Kay talk, I think it was at a women's leadership conference, about her experience. And I just thought, holy cow, I have no idea. And how am I gonna do this with these kids? I have no idea what their experience is gonna be like. So it's hitting close to home, especially right now. But I can only do my best. And I think the YWCA is a good place to do some of that learning and to create as much change as possible. I mean, the one person that stands out is my husband. He is very good at making me uncomfortable with things by pushing me into things that I wouldn't necessarily do on my own. But he's the reason that I'm here. He's the reason that I have gotten as involved as I have. I am as far introverted as you can possibly be. So getting out there is difficult for me. But I also think it's very rewarding for an introverted person, because you don't know what you can contribute, because you just wouldn't naturally do that. But my husband is my big cheerleader. He does more than I do, definitely, and he motivates me and he pushes me. I'm living day by day right now. I can't say that even a year ago I had a big plan with these little ones. They are consuming all of my time and I wouldn't have it any other way. Figuring out their path is going to be a big part of my life for the foreseeable future. Getting involved, like I said, finding your passion, and that passion may change. I expect mine to change in the coming years as my little ones get bigger and start experiencing what they're going to experience in this world, and who knows what that's going to be like. So I'm keeping my eyes open, and I'm keeping my heart open for new passions. I don't like to say that I'd like to be an inspiration to other women, because anybody can do what I do. I don't think it's anything outstanding or more than anybody else. But I guess I would hope that it would encourage other people to get involved. No organization can do it on their own. No organization can do it with just paid staff. They need volunteers. And so if you are passionate about something, I started off with the American Cancer Society because my dad had cancer, and it threw our family for a loop. Thankfully, he recovered, but he's in the minority. He had a really advanced stage cancer, and I can't believe that he beat it. Well, that's not fair. He's a very strong person, but we're just so grateful to have him. And so that's what I got involved in initially in Mankato. But just finding that and doing the steps to get involved and to support organizations, because they will not survive without volunteer support. The girls programming at the YWCA was particularly a good fit for me. Number one, because it's supporting girls. And I just don't feel like I need to say anything more about that. I think girls are going to become young women who are going to become women, and we need to show them that they can do anything. That plus the physical movement and the self-care that program instills in them, I think is so important. That is part of my passion, the human body, how it works, how we need to take care of it. And that kind of rolled into the women's leadership program that the YWCA does as well, that I do a segment on the power of movement. I feel like the instant that I think about that, I just get a smile, because I love doing that so much. I can't believe how lucky I am that they allow me to go and talk about science to women and get them moving and give them new ideas to figure out how to take care of themselves. So I just feel really lucky to be able to do that. I do want to share the first thoughts that I had when Natasha called me about this, because I was 38 weeks pregnant with my second geriatric pregnancy. They also call that advanced maternal age. And so when she said that I was being honored with the Young Woman of Distinction, I was shocked just with the honor, and then doubly shocked that it was young. It was a big ego boost. And then I started to panic that they didn't understand how old I was. So I did reach out to Natasha just to double check. Like, I need you to know how old I am in case you made a mistake. And she assured me there was no mistake. So I'm just really grateful for all of this. I want to give a special thank you to Rasmussen College, where I'm a faculty member. They are hugely supportive of everything community service, and have been very supportive of me and encouraging of me going out and volunteering. A lot of people I don't think know that Rasmussen College is hugely supportive of community service. They once, when I was chairing the American Cancer Society Relay for Life, they sent out all of their faculty and staff as volunteers, all of them, and I ran out of things for them to do. Like, that's unheard of at an event, but I have felt very supported by them, which I can't say enough about. I think they're just a wonderful college.
Thank you so much, Dr. B, for being a trailblazer for young women in our community. I always see you out at events, and I'm sure everyone else tuning in has too, and you're someone to aspire to. So thank you so much. And our first 2020 Women of Distinction honoree is Margo Wallace Druschel.
My name is Margo Wallace Druschel, and I'm currently, since last August, in the University Advising Office at MSU, Minnesota State University, Mankato. And prior to that, I was with the Minnesota Council of Churches Refugee Services Office here in Mankato for 2.5 years. University Advising is a wonderful new office at MSU where our work is specifically with students who have barriers to their education which have affected their academic performance. In many instances, not because of a lack of ability or a lack of effort, but because of systemic barriers like racism and poverty. And so not all the students we work with, but many of the students we work with experience those barriers and are working in their education to manage significant personal barriers as well as university level coursework. In my work with Minnesota Council of Churches Refugee Services, what drew me to that work, it was interesting. When I was at Gustavus, I had the opportunity, really for the first time in my career, to work with a number of students, quite a few of them, who were the children of families who had first come to the U.S. with refugee status. And so individuals from the Hmong community, from the Somali community, from the Sudanese and the Ethiopian communities. And as those students coming from families where their parents had arrived as refugees, and maybe the students had too, but the bulk of their education had been in U.S. schools, those students had such a unique perspective because they were at college for themselves, but they also had this really, really strong desire to fulfill their parents' dreams and wishes. And a couple of years ago, almost 3 years ago now, when the work opened up at Minnesota Council of Churches, actually almost 4 years ago, I just took a total chance. I'd done a lot of work in higher ed with diverse students and then with the children of refugees, but also I'd worked a lot building teams. And I saw a real need at MCC Refugee Services from the way that they advertised the position to have someone who could work with an incredible group of individuals who themselves had come to the US as individuals with refugee status. They knew amazing things about their journeys, and they had deep skills in working with other people from those refugee journeys. But they really needed to figure out how to manage all those systems. Most of the money is from federal sources. And so I worked a lot with staff on learning how to tap into all those databases, learning how to get all those reports in, learning how to track all their work with clients so that they could check all the necessary boxes, but most of all, so that their work could have the impact that only they, as individuals from those refugee communities, could bring to the work. I had the amazing opportunity to become friends across cultures and across those journeys. And it was really, for me, the first time that I had intimately known individuals with refugee journeys. And that was wonderful. And those people are still a really big, important part of my life in our community. I think for me, it's not anything that I would count as a kind of typical achievement, but my proudest moments were being able to ski with a young woman through adaptive skiing in my volunteer work who was completely blind. And I had skied for a long, long time. But for me, learning how to instruct somebody who couldn't see and to develop the incredible trust that it took for Megan and me to learn to work together. And Megan had an amazing sense of humor. She was one of the smartest people I've ever known. And she gave me the strength to trust myself so that we could learn to ski together. The person who has inspired me most in my life is my younger sister, Lauren Wallace. Lauren was born just 3.5 years after me with very apparent physical disabilities. And so she spent her whole life being different in a way that couldn't be ignored. And the gift that she gave me was that from the start, she had a deep ability to head out into the world and talk with others about her disabilities and both address it and move past it. And not move past it in a way of negating it, but move past it by putting it on the table. One of the things I've heard so much recently, and I think is really true, is that part of why we are in such a desperate situation and have been for centuries, really, is that we have not openly talked about race in America. And we haven't talked about the fact that people of color and Indigenous people have been treated differently. And so by trying to pretend that it doesn't exist, it becomes this really big thing. And what Lauren taught me was that herself and reaching out her hand, which was so very different from your hand or my hand, to shake the hand of every person she met and then to welcome them, to ask her about it, but then to build relationships, to build into who she was and how they could be friends and coworkers and colleagues, taught me an immense amount and has really affected my way of being in the world for almost my whole life. I work with a number of young women who are feeling both overwhelmed at present, but seeking inspiration and hope. And just this week, I had a conversation with one of my colleagues who is a member of the Hmong community. And we talked about the fear that she felt last week being down here in Mankato and seeing the rioting that was being visited upon her community while they were attempting to peacefully protest, and the worry that she had for their safety. But since then, she has heard from family members and talked to members of the community in St. Paul and the surrounding areas in Minneapolis and north of there, where the community is coming together and they're cleaning up businesses that were damaged, and they're continuing to raise their voices in peaceful protest. And that is giving her great hope. And so I think for all of us, it's this really important tension between holding both our hope and our despair in our hands and finding ways to acknowledge both of them, but to move forward whenever we can in hope, not whitewashing it, not being Pollyanna, but that it is that hope and it is that working together to really make systemic change and to call upon those in power to make that systemic change that is going to propel us all forward. I remember back many years ago, I lived in Greater Mankato about 11 years, and I think it was 8 or 9 years ago that I went to my first New American Families event. And it was when a group of women entrepreneurs who were new to our community had an event where they brought their handcrafted items, and they brought things that they had made that were from their culture. And they talked about being entrepreneurs in their own countries and how those refugee journeys had taken that away from them, but that the YW was working with them to help them get settled here in America, to help their children achieve the education and the support that they needed, and to help them as women to find their own voice and make their own way, both through learning English, through education, and through that support from other families in the local Mankato, North Mankato, St. Peter community, and coming together across those cultural divides as friends. And the ongoing work that the YWCA does to work for equity, to work to both call out and address systems of power and racism, but also to have very practical programs, bringing girls together with adult mentors. I think of the girls who have learned to bicycle out at Mount Cato and ride mountain bikes, the girls who have run in Girls on the Run, and the ways that that just helps them to become strong and capable, and gives me great hope for our next generation of young women leaders. My dream for the future at this particular point, when one more Black American has died at the hands of the police. And so I wanted to just express my outrage at the death of George Floyd and my deep sympathy for his family and for the people of Minneapolis who for so long have suffered from a system that is very inequitable toward people of color and driven in many ways through policing and government and courts that have not been equitable. And my dream is beginning right now to really genuinely reform those systems. And additionally, to call on those watching and those seeking to honor those of us who have been selected this year as women of distinction by finding ways to get involved and to serve. being named a woman of distinction is kind of an amazing, surprising thing, honestly. I don't think of myself as being a woman of distinction, but rather a person who, because I'm Lauren Ann Wallace's sister, learned early on to persevere with joy and compassion and to constantly work to make my world a better place. And I have had many opportunities to do that. Coming to Mankato 11 years ago provided me with so many opportunities to serve through my involvement in fair trade, through the work that I've done, through my volunteer opportunities. It's just been an amazing time in my life, and I can't quite figure out how it all coalesced in this time and space. And so I am grateful to have this platform and to be able to use my voice. And I'm inviting others to join with me and keep working, because we are all women of distinction, and we can all, by continuing to work together, make a really significant difference in our community, in our families, and in our state and our nation. Thank you to the people who have been my colleagues over the years, starting with my friends in the Access Office at Community Education, with the amazing adaptive ski programs at Mount Cato and on Lake Washington, to my colleagues at Gustavus Adolphus College and to the students there who so impacted my life, to my colleagues at Refugee Services and those who have become my friends, to my current colleagues, many of whom I've known for many years in our shared work as academic advisors at Minnesota State Mankato, and to my friends and colleagues in fair trade. This has been an amazing journey. Thank you to Patty Cramlinger for nominating me and for being the very first person I knew besides my husband in Mankato. And more than that, Patty, for constantly encouraging me and introducing me to people, and for nominating me for this, along with Catherine Bondahar, and for helping me to get to know people and places in these communities where I could work to make a difference. And finally, to the YWCA for the work that you do, continuing to work to address racism, to empower women, and to dismantle systems of power and inequity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Margo. You've truly made such a lasting impact on the lives of those you've worked with in our community. And our next 2020 Woman of Distinction honoree is Dr. Yurie Hong.
My name is Yurie Hong, and I'm an associate professor of Greek, Latin, and Classical Studies at Gustavus Adolphus College, and the co-founder and team lead of Indivisible St. Peter, Greater Mankato. I'm an associate professor of Greek, Latin, and Classical Studies, and I got to that point in my life because when I was little, I really loved reading mythology, and I love stories. I love understanding how they work and how they influence people and how they reflect but also challenge the things that we know in our lives. And so that's a world that I really wanted to delve deeply in, and I had a great teacher in high school who talked a lot about making contributions to the world and having relationships with people, and he was so inspiring that I wanted to be more like him and do the kinds of things that he did. So I went into classics, I went to graduate school, and I wanted to teach at the undergraduate level, and so that's what I've been able to do at Gustavus. I didn't think seriously about community active in civic engagement and things like that until after the 2016 election, when it became clear that reading and thinking about things and talking about things and voting were not enough. And so that's when the Indivisible Guide came out in early 2017. I took that very much to heart, that we are all part of making change in the world and that we need to be directly involved. So that's how I started our Indivisible group here in St. Peter, and worked with people who founded the Indivisible Mankato group, and those two groups have merged. And things have just taken off from there, because the more that you realize there are things that you can do, the more you want to do, because it feels good to be part of change. So that's how I got here. I think at this point, my greatest achievement and what I'm most proud of is helping people understand how much power they have to get involved and to bring their gifts to trying to make the world a better place. I think what I'm most proudest of is the community that we've built with Indivisible, helping people channel their desire to contribute and do things that none of us believed that we could do. And I think that's probably what I'm proudest of, is helping people see where they can plug in using whatever skills or passions or abilities they have to bring to the table, because everyone has something they can do. And I think a lot of us were really looking for a place where we could do that. And in the meantime, finding out that it could be really fun and meaningful, and we've made really great friendships and connections together in ways that would not have been possible without this group. So that's what I'm most proud of. Tough to talk about, to identify who in particular has inspired me throughout my life to do this work. I would say that there are 3 different groups that I can identify as providing specific types of inspiration. First would be my family. My parents grew up during and after the Korean War, and my grandmother survived that war and lived with us and was a silent presence throughout my life, a strong survivor, and she lived her life with such grace and love, even through her experiences that she had. And my parents always were very clear about the values they wanted to instill in us and how carefully we needed to create relationships with people. And I don't think it's any accident that my sisters and brother and I all at some level in our lives, through our careers or the things that we're involved with, have been involved with trying to help people and make things better for them. They've been a huge inspiration to me my whole life. I think importantly, I had 2 teachers in high school who were inspirational to me in a couple of different ways. My English teacher, Montserrat Fontes, showed me the power of words and stories and critical thinking, and lit my mind on fire in that way. And I had another teacher named Rick Takagaki, and he really pushed us to think about what our lives meant in the world and what kind of contributions we were going to make, and challenged us to think about ourselves and our own ideas. And then it wasn't until I got to Gustavus, actually, that and St. Peter, where I started to see people live out these ideas in real life. I'm from Los Angeles, which is such a huge city, and there's lots of great things about it. But a sense of community is something that's not as easy to get. And so it was really powerful and inspiring for me to be in a smaller place where I could see people making really positive impacts in their communities. And so they were my colleagues and friends, people that I knew were huge inspiration to me, and there are too many to name. So there's a lot of work to be done, and it was really amazing to see how it could be done. So I think those are the 3 groups of people I would say that were the most inspirational. To young women today who are looking to follow their passion, I would say you have to know yourself really well and be invested in that project. And then also to feel okay about being a work in progress, because that work never really ends. The other piece that I would say is that you don't have to do it all right now. Young women are under a tremendous amount of pressure to do and be all of the things, and that can be incredibly overwhelming. One of the things that I feel guilty about sometimes is that most of my life I was not civically engaged. As I said, I read the news, I talked about it with people, I voted, but I didn't do civic engagement or civic activism or social justice work at all. What I was doing during that time, though, was focusing on schoolwork, was focusing on being a critical reader and a good writer and communicating with people, teaching students, engaging with people at all levels of intellectual engagement. And that actually is what prepared me to do the work that I started doing just 3 years ago. I would not be able to do the kinds of things I'm doing now if I did not have that deep background in my academic career. Do I wish I had gotten involved sooner? Absolutely. On the other hand, I don't know how well I would have been able to do all of those other things if I was trying to do it all at the same time. So what I would say to young women now is to do what they can, when they can, and to not beat themselves up about not being able to do all of it all at once. That's something that someone told to me one time when I was juggling parenthood and teaching and being frustrated over not having enough time to publish. And she said, "You can publish later." I didn't start publishing my books until after my kids were old enough that they didn't need me as much anymore. I think sometimes we feel like we have to do it all right now, and it doesn't all have to be right now. Things change, and your whole life is a work in progress, and that's okay. The YWCA's mission of empowering women and eliminating racism have kind of taken on a really interesting meaning for me. Throughout my life, I was mostly conscious, primarily concerned with the role of, with what it meant to be a woman in today's society, what it meant to be an Asian woman, but a woman more specifically, and I've always been more attuned to issues having to do with women. It wasn't until I moved to Minnesota that I started interrogating the idea of race and ethnicity in a much more intentional way. Those were things I obviously thought about and reflected on when I was growing up. And I grew up in Los Angeles and did graduate work in Seattle, and so all West Coast. But there was something interesting about being in Minnesota where I was a clear minority within a minority in this location in St. Peter. They gave me an opportunity to think about it in a much more, I guess, intentional and explicit way that I hadn't interrogated as much before. Those two things together, I think, is really important. So there's a lot that I'm still reflecting on and processing. And what's important to me about the YWCA stating that mission so clearly is that both of those things need to be taken together. You can't really pull apart one from the other. And that's something that I've been realizing more and more and reflecting on in my own life as the two have kind of converged over the last, I would say 10 years or so since moving here. In terms of what the future will hold for me, I think that in the immediate future, I'm going on sabbatical and I'm going to be pouring all of my energy into getting as many people engaged in fixing the structural problems that we have right here in St. Peter, Mankato, in Minnesota, and on the national stage, generally speaking. I'm going to be doing everything I can to get people registered to vote, requesting their absentee ballots, voting by mail, and getting all of their friends and relatives and everyone else that they know to do the same. Because I think that there's a lot of internal personal work that needs to be done and interrelational work. But I think that the structural things, we need people to understand how these systems work, how we change the systems from the inside and the outside. And that all needs to happen really quickly. There's no time to lose. It is a really urgent project. So that's what I'm going to be dedicating all of my time towards in the immediate future, because I have the privilege to do so, because it's summer and I'm going on sabbatical, as I said. A little bit further down the line, I think what I would like to focus on is bringing my academic side and looking at ancient democracy, modern democracy, and doing a lot more public outreach with schools, with the general public, the community here. And so I think that's what I'll be looking at after the election, hopefully when we've done all the things that we wanted to do and got some good things in place. So that's kind of what the future looks like for me, because I think the most sustainable thing is to bring all of the pieces of your life together so that they can all help each other out, and to be really intentional about what that's going to look like based on what your own personal tendencies and passions and abilities are. As far as what being a YWCA Woman of Distinction means for me, I think it means that I will now have access to a wider network of women who are already being engaged in important work throughout the community in all of these different ways that are so important, that bring different things to the table. And I'm really excited to be part of a group, such a distinguished group of women who have been doing such amazing work that we can all join in on it together in our different ways. So I'm really excited about that. If you haven't taken the census yet, then please make sure you do so, because everyone counts, and this is how our communities get federal funds for things like schools, hospitals, roads, things like that. And everybody counts. Everyone should be counted. And then also, if you haven't requested your absentee ballot yet, make sure you do that so that you can submit your ballot and vote in November, because every voice counts, and the more we can do that safely from our own homes instead of having to go to the ballot booth, the better. So take the census and go vote.
Yurie, thank you so much for being such an activist and leading the rest of us in the social change that needs to happen in our own backyards. And for our final honoree of the evening, our 2020 Woman of Distinction, Jean Keenan.
My name is Jean Keenan, and I'm the Executive Director of Life Work Planning Center. So the path I took to get to my current position is that I spent about 10 years doing advocacy with survivors of domestic violence, and because I spoke Spanish, they were primarily Latinx survivors of domestic violence. And that brought me to a real interest in the intersectionality between the experiences that women have and the experiences that people of color have, where that overlaps in terms of similarities and differences. And there was an opportunity once I had moved back to Mankato through a personal transition of my own. They were looking for a multicultural self-sufficiency counselor, and that was back in January of 2002. What the former director at Life Work Planning Center was hoping for was someone to lead Latina youth groups after school. And with my teaching experience and being bilingual, it presented a very unique opportunity. So I took on that challenge for years, doing after-school programming with young Latina women to help them stay in school to graduation, avoid too early or unintended pregnancy, and then to make plans for life after high school. And little did I know at that time, I was being groomed as the former director prepared to move towards retirement to move into the director position. And so that's sort of how the story progressed for me landing in the current position that I'm in. I would say it would have to be being the mother to the two fine young men who I have raised. In some ways, I hope my greatest achievement hasn't happened yet. I think really what is an achievement is when people can daily find the courage and strength to make consistent efforts towards whatever it is that they believe to be their purpose. So in my case, it's really around working for social change for women and for people of color. And I think that if there's any sort of proudest moment is that daily ability to be consistent and continue to move forward even if there are setbacks. I think I'm both inspired and motivated to do the work simply by having the opportunity to work for and with and on behalf of some really incredible, passionate, and smart women who have fostered in me a belief in my ability to handle challenges that I didn't maybe think I could handle, instilled in me a constant desire for learning and growth, And I think that there are people who see the world as it is, and then there are people who see the world as it could be or as it should be. And I am by nature a person who sees the world as it could be or should be. And so that gives me an opportunity then to try to move in that direction in whatever sphere of influence I might have to be able to do that. So I would say what fuels my passion is really that I am small, but in a lot of ways mighty. Even as a tiny little 4'6", 80-pound fifth grader, I really couldn't abide a bully, and I always had a spot in my heart for the underdog. It's just by nature who I am, and by nurture sort of the values that were instilled in me and my parents, and so by my parents. So I would really say what fuels my passion is that desire to see equity and equality for all people. If I had the opportunity to say to young women today who are looking for inspiration or to follow their passion, I would suggest that if there's something by which they feel pulled or pushed, or something that kind of calls to them, to really be present with that. That somewhere in that, if they begin to sit with that and unpack it, is their purpose. And I think that once you work from your purpose, you really don't work at all, because that's the thing you believe in. That's the thing that moves you forward. I think in the uncertain and challenging times that we face right now, there is a lot of opportunity for people to find their passion. There's certainly a need in the world for people to find their passion and follow that. We really don't need a lot more successful people. We've all heard that old saying. What we really need are people who are working from their heart, living from their heart, and following their passion. So in my life, I have lived out the values of the YWCA in terms of empowering women and eliminating racism throughout the entirety of my professional life, in serving an advocate for victims of domestic violence, in working with Latina youth to help them move towards graduation and improve their lives. I think in terms of being the executive director and creating partnerships and fostering relationships. But I think even more importantly than what I have done in my professional life, there's what I've done in my personal life. And the mission of eliminating racism and empowering women resonates very deeply with me, because those are some deeply held personal values and personal beliefs. And I almost couldn't behave otherwise, because I've been a real firm believer in the importance of the work that happens out of the YWCA and that happens with Life Work Planning Center on behalf of communities of color and women. And so I feel that it is really important to work from that authenticity, to sort of grow where you're planted. And this is where I'm planted right now. And so finding my purpose has been really a very fortuitous thing. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be of service to my community. So one of the skill sets that I unexpectedly developed while advocating for women who are being served through Life Work Planning Center has really been my work around public policy issues and legislative work, because the Displaced Homemaker Program is a statewide program. Most recently, as a matter of fact, this legislative session, one of the things that happened was, because our program is named in law, it took a change in legislation to change the name of the program. And so effective August 1st, we will no longer be the Minnesota Displaced Homemaker Program. Rather, we will be the Minnesota Family Resiliency Partnership. I did not realize how much my skill set would grow in the area of public policy, and how very passionate and interested I would become in that. I think that there are a lot of ways that we can be a voice for change. So we can channel change through protests and marches and letters to the editor and very upfront pieces. We can also apply that daily, consistent public policy pressure behind the scenes. And it happens to be something that I've done a great deal of in my work and have thoroughly enjoyed. So becoming a woman of distinction through the YWCA really allows me at this particular juncture in our in time and place and the challenging and uncertain circumstances we have. I think it offers me a platform to speak out on our current unrest. It will put me in spaces to broaden and strengthen the ways in which I can be both an ally and a change agent. I think it is a very radical act to come to own one's strengths and value one's own opinions. It's very easy to look outside of ourselves for answers, and I feel like this validation is an opportunity to really look inward. And I would certainly say to anyone who is wondering, what does the future hold for me? How do I find my passion? How can I be of use? That they are needed, they are wanted, regardless of your circumstances or how disenfranchised you feel. There is a leader within each of us. There's no particular special thing about me that has me sit on this side of the camera doing the interview. So if you are a disenfranchised woman and you're listening to this tonight, I want you to know I hear you, I see you, and I am you. You can do it also. So I would really like to thank the many, many mentors that I have had in my lifetime. Certainly, I think when anyone receives any kind of recognition, it didn't happen in a vacuum. And so again, I have had the great fortune of sitting at the table and working alongside and in the company of many strong, powerful, passionate, smart women. And I think that has really helped challenged me and helped me grow. I certainly would want to thank folks who saw things in me that I didn't see in me and believed that I could continue to move forward. I absolutely would want to thank the staff and board of LifeWork Planning Center for their tireless dedication, and they so freely share their time and their talents and their abilities towards our mission of increasing the self-sufficiency of women and their families, and I am forever in their debt.
Jean, thank you for being such a strong advocate in the fight for women's rights and truly embodying YWCA's mission of eliminating racism and empowering women. So Jean's speech was a great way to wrap up this evening and talk about the YWCA's mission. And I just heard a quote about feminism isn't about convincing women that they're strong, because we know we're strong, but it's about changing the way people perceive our strength. And so now Natasha Lopez Rodriguez, Executive Director of YWCA Mankato, is going to teach us all how we can support the mission of YWCA and really work together to create the social change that needs to happen. Thanks.
So here's the point in our program where I ask you for your help. I want to share how your financial contribution can help each program by telling you about the work that each program does in our community. New American Families. In 2019, New American Families transitioned their focus a bit, but as well as still serving the refugee and women in their families in our community. We are now connecting them to resources to ensure basic needs are being met and empowering them towards self-determinancies. The New American Family Home Visiting is an early childhood focused in-home visiting program that works with parents to engage their children in developmental activities, preparing kids ages 0 to 5 for kindergarten. New American Family utilizes the parents as teachers model, evidence-based curriculum to assist families who have resettled in the United States and have children prenatal to 5 years of age. Our parent educators typically identify with the cultures that they're working with and firsthand to guide them through culturally sensitive approach. Additionally, it is our goal to provide services in primary language of the individual's served whenever possible, as we recognize the value, the terms of relationship building, honoring culture and heritage, and ensuring mutual understanding. The goals of the programs are to improve child and health development, reduce rates of child abuse and neglect, increase school readiness, increase parent involvement in children's care and education, and it includes the families who have recently resettled to the United States and building stronger community. So how are some ways you can contribute to the New American Families? $50 can provide a developmentally centered toy or educational tool to be used for parent educators with multiple children. $75 can provide a gift basket with items focused on proper health development for newly expecting families. Or $150 can provide transportation for families to participate in our monthly group connections or community outings to learn more about local resources to interact. Women's programming. The Elizabeth Carney Women's Leadership Program is a gender-specific program designed to strengthen and enhance the leadership of all women in their workplace and in their community. Since its inception, the program has focused on 5 main themes: skill development, redefining power, balance, and ethical leadership and reflection. The impact of this program on participants is transformative. The YWCA also offers an annual leadership conference as an opportunity for all women to learn and build skills and network with other area professionals. How can you help the women's programming? $150 provides a scholarship for the Women's Leadership Conference or Speaker Series. $400 provides a partial scholarship for the Elizabeth Carney Women's Leadership Program. And $1,400 can provide a full scholarship for a whole year of the Elizabeth Carney Women's Leadership Program. Girls Programming serves all girls in grades K through 12. Various programs like Girls on the Run, Heart and Soul, Camp Goater, Girls Inc., Surge, and Gears. The mission of these programs is to inspire girls to be joyful, healthy, and confident. These programs are designed to help girls understand their own ability to control their future through their strengths, positive thinking, goal setting, and planning. Woven into these programs are empowering and motivating activities to build self-esteem and develop a strong sense of team where every girl counts. How can you help girls programming? $100, you would fund the training of 4 new coaches so they can be mentors to our girls. $125, you can change a girl's life by sponsoring her through the entire season of our youth development program. And then $150 will send a girl to our Camp Goater this summer. Our other program is Racial Justice and Advocacy. Racial justice programs at the YWCA advocate for equality through increasing your knowledge and shaping your vision as it relates to racial justice and advocacy. We have done this through a commitment to host an annual It's Time to Talk forum on race. As our nation's state and local community continues to engage the challenges of our current situation on racial equality, the YWCA remains an active participant in this vital work. How can you help this program? $400 would sponsor a table for youth to continue this conversation in our community. Or $600 will help us launch our newest program of offering It's Time to Act to move the needle and really help our community grow when it comes to racial and equity. Our annual Women of Distinction event has become the single largest fundraising event for the YWCA Mankato. The generosity of the people in this community has continued to increase each year, and it has made a real difference in the program that we're able to offer, but we need that continued support. So those are just some examples that I provided per program of how you can help our agency. And we know your time is valuable, so tonight we're making it really easy for you to provide a gift. If you are able, and we know not everyone is, please know that we know that. But if you are able financially to support our programs, a gift or a multi-year pledge, you can visit our auction site or make a donation directly to our website. Our goal tonight is to raise $20,000. And yes, all pledges will also count in their entirety towards that goal. If you are able to offer a gift tonight, you can visit our website at www.ywcamankato.org. Thank you. As I wrap up our 48th annual 2020 Women of Distinction event, in closing I want to say some remarks. Your virtual presence affirms your belief in the YWCA's mission and the work that we are doing. These women of distinction and all our past women of distinction live our mission. It is in their blood. They have continued working towards the betterment of our community. These women have always looked towards the future. They are part of how the YWCA Mankato has gotten to where it is today, and how we have become an organization deeply committed to our mission, which is to eliminate racism, empower women, and promote peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. The mission simply could not happen without these women. Their collective power is changing the world, right here in our community, and we will continue to do so into the foreseeable future and beyond. Please join me in thanking all of them for their impact, for without them, we truly would not be where we are today. So on behalf of the YWCA and all the women, girls, and families who are part of our programming, especially those future women of distinction who we do not know yet, I want to deeply thank you for your support of the YWCA Mankato. Good evening.
Thank you so much, Natasha, and thank you to everybody who's tuned in tonight to honor our 2020 Women of Distinction recipients. Thank you to our honorees. This was a very different Women of Distinction event this year, but we are so proud of all of you. And thank you to our past 150 honorees who have tuned in tonight. And this recording will be available at ywcamankato.org. So please make sure to share all of these wonderful stories with your friends and family. We hope to see everyone in 2021 and get us all back together again. Until then, stay safe.